In a city square teeming with a furious crowd, a declaration rings out. The execution of the rebel summoner, Quirce, is to begin. From behind, two massive blades are poised at the neck of a white-haired young man kneeling on a platform, his fate sealed before the roaring masses. Memories of a brighter time flash through his mind, being honored by a smiling king, parading through the streets with a young princess, and being welcomed with joy by the very people who now call for his death. Back on the execution platform, his eyes shadowed by his hair, he understands how he ended up here. As a summoner who defeated the demon lord, his power was deemed too dangerous. The people feared him. He considers it a miracle he was allowed to live even this long. From a balcony above, the king looks on and bids a final, quiet goodbye to Ramadano. Quirce, however, isn't thinking of the king or his own demise. His only concern is for his summoned beasts. He desperately hopes that his strong, lonely companions will not grow to despise the people of this world. As the executioner's blade begins its descent, his mind races with regret. He wishes he could see his beasts one last time to offer apologies and gratitude. With no time left, he settles on 3 final words for them, a silent apology for being useless. In some distant place, the eye of a great beast sheds a single tear. With a final, tearful thought for everyone he's leaving behind, the blade completes its arc, and his world fades to black. Then, a new sensation. He awakens in a soft bed, and 4 drip beside him. He finds himself thinking that this other world is warmer than he ever imagined. He sits up, recognizing the sterile environment of a hospital room. A shocking question forms in his mind. Has he returned to his original world? Were the last 3 years nothing but a dream? As this realization hits him, a dark, crackling energy surges through his body. He clutches his hand, watching in horror as a shadowy substance coalesces around it. A curse. The sudden affliction sends him reeling back onto the bed. Instinct takes over. He focuses, thinking of curse dispelling and healing. A faint light glows from his hand, and the dark miasma vanishes, the skin beneath it mending instantly. It worked. As the reality of his retained power sinks in, his expression hardens into a grim, shadowed mask of resolve. He stared at his hands, questioning if the world he'd just left was real. A sudden thought struck him, and he sat up to check the calendar, his eyes widening in disbelief at what he saw. His gaze drifted to the window, revealing a bizarre fusion of a modern city skyline and a fantasy tower, with winged creatures circling it. Just then, a nurse burst in, announcing that Rimakuen had woken up. He could only stare, bewildered, as a dragon flew past the glass. Later, a doctor explained the situation. 5 months ago, Quirce was caught in a rockslide accident, sustaining injuries so severe that even a seasoned adventurer would not have survived. He was expected to remain in a vegetative state, but a combination of modern technology and healing magic brought him back. Quirce realized his memory was the only thing seemingly affected, recalling only an abnormal landscape. He was then visited by his parents, who were overcome with emotion. To avoid explaining the impossible, Quirce decided to pretend he had amnesia. He apologized for not remembering them, but his mother embraced him tightly, telling him that all that mattered was that he was alive. Riding in a car after being discharged, he observed that this was indeed the Japan he knew, yet it felt different. He could sense magical power emanating from the vehicle itself. His father explained that in recent years, dungeon streaming had become a massive trend, and the number of dungeons appearing had increased dramatically, making adventurers a common sight. Suddenly, his senses flared. He detected 2 distinct presences radiating magical power nearby. In the same instant, the car directly in front of them swerved violently out of control. Realizing the immediate danger, he instinctively reached out, casting a protective shield. A hexagonal barrier of light materialized just in time to deflect the oncoming vehicle. Turning to his shocked parents, he asked if they were all right. The source of the chaos was revealed as a massive griffin descended, crushing a car under its talons. His father cried out that a monster had escaped the dungeon and questioned where the adventurers were. Quirce recognized the beast immediately. He knew a griffin was a powerful monster, one that would require skilled knights or adventurers to defeat. He recalled being killed for possessing dangerous power and considered simply fleeing as a civilian should. But then, a child's cry for help cut through the chaos. He saw a small child, fallen and alone, directly in a monster's path. In an instant, his decision was made. Quirce burst from the car, dark energy trailing behind him as he sprinted towards the child. "Idiot," his father yelled, watching in horror. "Why did you jump in?" He lunged forward, placing himself between the child and the beast, but instantly realized his mistake. At this close range, he couldn't even counterattack. From the car, his father could only watch in horror, screaming his son's name as the child behind him cried out in terror. He berated himself for his foolishness, for making his mother worry yet again. As the griffin's massive claw descended, he braced for the impact, but the blow never landed. A massive, wolf-like beast materialized from thin air, intercepting the griffin's attack with a ferocious roar of its own. Quirce had summoned it. As his summoned wolf held the griffin at bay, he sensed a familiar magical power. He wondered if she had arrived, greeting the unseen presence as an old acquaintance. He apologized for the sudden intrusion, recognizing the new energy signature as belonging to a third party. Behind him, a colossal crystalline entity erupted from the ground, its form towering over the street. The crowd gasped, recognizing that the Ice Princess had arrived. Korea, however, seemed apologetic, telling his wolf familiar to hide for now. The summoner, a young woman with long, light hair, appeared before him. She asked if he was okay, but Korea, stunned, could only question why she was there. The onlookers thanked Ayan-chan for helping Rima, but she simply told him to watch out. His father approached, identifying the woman as Yukinari Ayan and remarking that she looked more mature. He explained to Korea that she was his childhood friend and neighbor. Maintaining his ruse, Korea told Ayan he had amnesia and didn't know who she was. Her smile vanished, replaced by disbelief as she asked if he was serious. He apologized, and she formally introduced herself. Ayan noted that it wasn't the right time or place for a long discussion. She offered to tell him many things later if he would call her. Korea agreed, promising to do so. With a final "see you later," they parted ways for the moment, the scene ending on a view of a house at night. He sat alone, grappling with the truth. His original world had no monsters, no magic, no fantasy elements invading daily life. He wondered if this was a parallel world, a dreadful premonition that had become a certainty after he discovered an unknown diary. Despite the fantastical intrusions, everything else was the same. His family, the era, and above all his one childhood friend, they were all identical. The realization of this single, monumental difference drew a hollow laugh from him. He placed the diary on his head, accepting that he hadn't returned to his original world after all. This body, he reasoned, must belong to the Rima of this world, a life he may have taken over after an accident left its previous owner unconscious. Deciding there was no point in dwelling on the negative, his thoughts were interrupted by a familiar voice. On the floor, a young woman with wolf ears and a tail looked up at him. She introduced herself as Luna, the Managarm, his first summoned beast and companion for the last 3 years. After explaining she was just doing a safety check, she cheekily requested a reward for having stayed hidden for so long. She wanted him to pet her. As he reached down, an overwhelming wave of emotion crashed over him. He covered his face with his hand, unable to stop the tears. Luna looked up, her expression shifting to one of concern as she saw her master cry. His personal grief quickly gave way to urgent concern. He asked if the others were safe. Luna confirmed that everyone was safe inside him, a fact punctuated by the appearance of another small, wolf-eared familiar named Aster. Relieved, Korea questioned Luna's sudden desire to be petted, but ultimately relented and agreed. Lying in bed, he gently stroked Luna's head. The warmth of her presence was a grounding reassurance that this was real, that his companions existed. A brief misunderstanding arose when he announced he was going to sleep, making Luna fear he wanted her to leave. He quickly pulled her into an embrace, insisting she stay and cursing himself for being an idiot. Holding her close, his confusion faded, replaced by a singular certainty. Here, in this new world, he had his summoned beasts. With renewed determination, he made a silent vow. He would protect them. He would not repeat the same mistakes he made in that other world. As Rima sleeps peacefully, Luna watches over him, a gentle smile on her face. A wave of relief washes over her. She is so glad her master is alive. She makes a silent, fierce vow. If the world ever tries to hurt him again, she will become whatever it takes to protect him. Later, Korea sits awake at a desk in a modern room, his expression serious. His focus is singular, centered on a new concept for him, dungeon streaming. He learns that in this world, fantasy has become reality. Here, the ability to fight is treated as a form of entertainment, allowing ordinary people to experience the unknown vicariously. This reality revolves around dungeons, independent otherworlds filled with unique monsters and materials. Korea puzzles over the idea, wondering if it's akin to a real-life version of a game stream. He connects this to his own experiences, realizing that the dungeon streamers he's heard about must be this world's equivalent of adventurers. To enter a dungeon, one must become an adventurer. Setting aside the broader questions, he focuses on what to do next. A quick search reveals a startling fact. People he knew from the other world, like Ayan, have become incredibly famous here, with her channel boasting 2 million subscribers. He groans, overwhelmed. To understand this world and why he was brought here, he knows he'll eventually need to enter a dungeon. He has no idea how his power will measure up, but first things first, he must gather information. Deciding to head to a dungeon for reconnaissance, he dons a presence-concealing robe and considers his weapon summon ability. He has no intention of fighting actively as he did before. His goal is simply to find out how useful his summoned beast can be. Recalling that dungeons are open 24/7, he plans to slip in unnoticed. While walking, he consults a device that maps out the area. The nearest dungeon is a C-rank 1 named Kirigane. He learns that its monsters are a dungeon type, meaning they employ technology and advanced tactics. He arrives at an ornate, modern-looking building, noting that the dungeon is mostly populated by orcs. As he approaches the entrance, however, he senses an unexpected obstacle, a barrier. He confirms his suspicion. The dungeon is closed at night. He sees this as an advantage. However, as the lack of people will make it easier to move around. Suddenly, the modern world vanishes. He finds himself standing on a ridge overlooking a vast, mountainous wilderness as winged beasts circle the sky. A draconic creature beside him senses the presence of orcs. Before he can react, a massive, roaring beast lunges forward. An explosion erupts at his feet, sending him stumbling backward as he realizes with a start that the battle has already begun. Just as he falls, a familiar form intercepts him. Luna, in her massive wolf form, catches him on her back. He thanks her for the save, and she reaffirms that protecting her master is her duty. Looking down at his companions, he reflects grimly that it is this very capability that leads to her death. The memory of battle fades, replaced by a different scene in a forest. He finds himself face to face not with Luna, but with her identical twin sister, Sol. He questions her presence, explaining he only intended to summon Luna. Sol retorts, annoyed that he snuck into her summoning circle. He realizes that in this world, he cannot casually summon both of them. Her annoyance quickly escalates. She complains that he hasn't called for her in so long, and that summoning Luna instead is unfair and strange. Her voice grows desperate as she confronts him directly, her eyes wide with anguish as she asks if he doesn't love her anymore. Quirce is stunned, having never seen this intensely emotional side of her before. He feels a chill as he senses her power. Dark mana begins to spill from her form, a clear sign of her distress. He remembers the words of a former subordinate. In a situation like this, the only solution is a sincere and immediate apology. Taking the advice to heart, he apologizes earnestly. He tells Sol he missed her deeply and begs her never to say he doesn't need her again. He asks her to return to her usual self, reassuring her that he truly needs her and will be counting on her from now on. Her tense expression begins to soften. His words have the desired effect. Sol is instantly placated, humming happily and teasingly, concluding that he must love her a great deal. Quirce lets out a sigh of relief, utterly drained by the emotional ordeal, as Luna observes the scene with an unimpressed, stoic expression. As Sol basks in her victory, she makes one more request, a head pat later. But her cheerful mood abruptly shatters. Her eyes narrow as she senses a nearby presence, annoyed that the noisy little lizards dare to interrupt her moment. On the forest floor, the lifeless bodies of two draconic creatures lie still. She immediately proposes a contest to her sister, Luna, a hunt to see who can kill more lizards. With a competitive grin, Sol declares the prize. The winner gets their master all to herself for an entire day. Quirce, overhearing their wager, tries to intervene. He raises a hand, attempting to de-escalate by reminding them it's just a strength contest and they should take it easy, questioning if they're sure about not giving him up even if they cry. His words fall on deaf ears. The sisters stand ready in a forest clearing, completely ignoring him. With determined glares, they both announce the start of their duel. The fight begins, not against mere lizards, but against a swarm of wyverns. It quickly devolves into a total slaughter as both sisters unleash their devastating power. Watching the carnage unfold, Quirce clutches his head in frustration, shouting for the girls not to overdo it. After the dust settles, he stands amidst the fallen monsters, contemplating the ease of their victory. He muses that the monsters in this world might be weaker than he thought, as the dragons that seemed perfect for a test were turned to dust in seconds. He pushes off the ground with a crack, accelerating through the forest in search of a greater challenge. A colossal, unknown creature looms before him, its roar echoing through the trees. He identifies it as a monster unlike any he's seen. Spotting Sol and Luna already engaging it, he smirks, thinking this could finally be a tough fight. The monster, however, utters a single, chilling word: die. Quirce freezes, his expression turning to one of utter shock. Before the creature can strike, Luna intercepts it. She becomes a blur of motion, unleashing a powerful attack to shield Quirce from harm. In the wake of their destructive hunt, Luna informs her master that no monsters remain. Sol, however, eagerly interrupts, declaring the last kill was hers and demanding her reward from a nonplussed Quirce. He surveys the absolute carnage, a field of monster corpses and shattered trees, and sternly tells the two sisters that they went way too far. A troubling thought occurs to him. This world seems to have grown strong because of dungeon benefits, meaning that wiping out all the monsters might be a completely forbidden act. As he stews in his guilt, Sol approaches with a downcast expression, apologizing. She confesses that she tried so hard because she wanted to learn more about him, and she thanks him for his help. Her demeanor flips instantly as she winks, proudly declaring that she succeeded and proposes they go on a date the next day. Quirce, taken aback, argues that it's impossible because it would start rumors. He concedes slightly, admitting that perhaps they could if the chance arises. Sol's face lights up, asking if he's serious. From a distance, Luna quietly affirms to her master that it is now a promise. Later, a friendly spar takes a dark turn. Sol launches a massive ball of energy toward Quirce, yelling for him not to disappoint her. As a vortex of power erupts, her face contorts with manic intensity as she screams for him to die. In response to the lethal threat, a massive, powerful wolf bursts into existence from a cloud of smoke, placing itself between Quirce and the attack. The wolf stands ready. Sol, now beside Quirce, remarks with a sigh that there's no stopping her sister when she gets like this. Quirce wonders if they can even keep up with their intended target, but the wolf, Luna, tells him to leave it to her. She tells Quirce she's counting on him, noting the scent of strangers on him. He dismisses it as she crouches, allowing him to mount her back. With a call to his master, she leaps forward, carrying him away at great speed. From the darkness of a grand, arched entrance, a voice taunts an unseen audience, hinting at a location filled with A-rank, disaster-level monsters. The speaker reveals himself to be Korea, a confident smirk on his face. He announces to his viewers that he is heading into the Dragon Graveyard, Ryozuka, a place that will soon be banned. His audience floods the chat with panicked messages, begging him to get out and reminding him of the city destroying wyverns within and the people who died trying to clear the area. He scoffs at their concern, questioning their intelligence. He boasts that as a top-tier A-rank adventurer from an illegal guild, a dungeon like this is simple for him. Besides, he reasons it's not technically banned yet. The scene shifts. Korea now stands alone on a desolate, snow-swept mountain ridge, his previous bravado gone as he surveys the bleak landscape. His expression turns to one of shock and confusion. He wonders aloud what is happening, realizing he's in an emergency situation. His viewers echo his alarm, questioning why this dungeon, supposedly quiet and beginner-friendly, has become so dangerous. As he breaks into a run along the cliff's edge, a new idea forms in his mind. If he can resolve this crisis, he'll be hailed as a hero. His audience dismisses the notion as absurd. He stops short, kneeling in the snow before the massive, frozen carcass of a great beast. He identifies the corpse as an emerald dragon, a rare A-rank monster, noting how irregular it is for such a creature to be left behind. Filled with new resolve, he announces to his viewers that he is pushing forward to clear the dungeon and achieve S-rank. Suddenly, a colossal, living dragon erupts from behind ancient ruins, its roar shaking the earth. A small, rabbit-like familiar leaps in fright, calling out to its master. The great beast is Ragnarok. Standing firm with Luna at his side, Korea observes the creature. He recalls dragons from the other world, but recognizes this one as a high-class type, possibly with different traits. He turns to his companion and says her name, Luna, asking for her help as he prepares to issue commands. He faced the colossal beast not with fear, but with a confident smirk. This was not a threat, it was an opportunity. With a surge of magical energy, he initiated a weapon summon, declaring the dragon a perfect opponent to test their strength. He called out its name, Levitine, and a formidable magic staff materialized in his grasp. He noted its power to turn all to ash, but also its utility as a top-class support weapon. It had been a long time since their last battlefield, and he was keenly aware that his mana was only at 30% of its former capacity, limiting the beasts and magic he could currently command. Despite these constraints, his resolve was absolute. He reflected that what he was truly capable of had not changed at all. Gripping the staff, he shouted to his two companions, telling them to go wild. He would back them up with everything he had. At his command, the two great wolves, Luna and Sol, sprang into action, launching themselves directly at the massive dragon. As they closed the distance, Korea unleashed a rapid sequence of support spells, boosting their attack and defense, granting Luna resistance to fire, and creating invisible platforms in the air to aid their assault. The wolves bit deep into the dragon's hide, eliciting a great roar of pain. He watched their coordinated attack with satisfaction, remarking that while he expected nothing less from them, it was still awesome to see them so thoroughly dominating a dragon. His concentration was broken by the sudden shout of a stranger. A man in full armor, having just arrived, yelled at Korea to get away, warning him of the danger. Before Korea could respond to the bewildered man, the dragon retaliated, unleashing a swirling vortex of dark energy, vis reflexio, that swept towards them both. The blast washed over them, but Korea stood firm, effortlessly shielding the newcomer. Thrown to the ground by the force, the armored man looked up in shock, wondering aloud if he had just died. Korea calmly told him that he was alive, and that he should not move. With the immediate danger to the stranger neutralized, his attention snapped back to his companions. He issued a sharp command, telling the two of them to finish it in one hit, as they were out of time. In perfect sync, the two wolves responded. Luna began to gather a sphere of pure destruction for her attack, Destructio Luna, while Sol charged a radiant orb of energy for Iridiran Sol. They aimed their combined, ultimate attacks at the wounded dragon. In a jarring shift of location, a young man in adventurer's gear looks up in surprise at a dark-robed figure who has suddenly appeared. He asks if the stranger is all right. The figure, Korea, pulls back his hood with a look of confusion, prompting the adventurer to demand, with shock, who this mysterious person is. The adventurer, still kneeling, explains that the dungeon, named Ryozuka, has been cleared and is set to vanish in just 10 minutes. Korea gestures in disbelief, questioning how a dungeon could simply disappear. As he tries to comprehend the situation, a notification appears near the adventurer, announcing that his live viewership has exceeded 200,000. The adventurer panics, shouting that they are in a strange dimension and will be erased along with it if they don't escape immediately. Korea interrupts the man's frantic outburst, his expression hardening as he asks if he is seriously live-streaming at a time like this. The flustered adventurer retorts that this is precisely what he should be worried about, before urgently asking if Korea has found the teleport gate. The adventurer continues his tirade, yelling that this is a life-or-death situation for him, and that he's being metaphorically thrown into the internet ocean. Korea remains still, observing the man's panic. Ignoring the outburst, Korea calmly closes his eyes, activating a mana detection ability. He pinpoints their escape route, stating that the mana reaction indicates the exit is at the back of a nearby altar. The adventurer expresses astonishment that Korea found the gate in a single second, only to see him vanish from sight. Korea instantly reappears mounted atop a massive white wolf, Luna. He commands Luna to enter stealth mode, and curtly tells the adventurer to drop it. Taking this as his cue, the adventurer breaks into a desperate sprint towards the newly discovered exit, shouting for them to run for it. With Korea on her back, Luna leaps powerfully towards the dungeon's entrance. As they fly through the air, Korea praises her speed. At the threshold, a woman wearing a crown addresses a massive crowd, declaring, "Game over." They emerge into the open, finding themselves surrounded by armed riot guards and a throng of onlookers, including Iane and another familiar woman. Still cloaked by Luna's stealth, Korea pulls his hood tight, nervously thinking that he should be fine as long as the stealth holds. He stood with his small, wolf-like companion, who seemed confused by their surroundings. The creature questioned if this was truly his home, noting that the scent was wrong. Brushing aside the concern, Korea declared it was time to head home. Moments later, having arrived at his destination, he collapsed onto his bed, utterly spent. The day's events had left him unusually tired. He briefly thought of the man he'd met in the dungeon streamer, and hoped he had escaped safely. All he wanted was to preserve his peaceful life. As he lay there, his phone slipped from his grasp. The screen glowed, displaying the current trending topics. Black Rogue Guy was #1, followed by Bee Summoning. His recent, public escape had not gone unnoticed. The day begins on a quiet residential street, with the morning sun casting soft light on the houses. Inside one of these homes, Rima finishes his breakfast with his parents, thanking them for the meal. His father looks up, slightly surprised. Just then, the doorbell chimes. His father asks him to get it, and Rima agrees, heading for the door while wondering who could be visiting so early. He glances at the video intercom screen and sees a young woman with light-colored hair, Iane, who strikes a playful pose. Through the speaker, he greets her by name and asks what she wants. Iane cheerfully suggests they walk to school together, since they attend the same one. He hesitates, saying he'll pass because it would be awkward to walk with someone he can't remember. Iane observes that he hasn't changed at all, then pointedly asks if he even knows where the school is. He admits that he's never been there and had to look it up on a map. He muses that his amnesia seems to have not only taken his memories, but also cured his terrible sense of direction. Her face inches closer as she teases him, asking if he really knows the way. Rima flinches, flustered by her sudden proximity. Despite his earlier reluctance, they now walk side by side down the street. Iane smiles, remarking how long it's been since they walked to school together. Rima quietly concedes to himself that it feels nice. She continues, recalling a memory for his sake. Iane explains that the guild master told them to visit once things calmed down. She reminds him that he wasn't even registered with the guild because he had no mana, but he tried so hard that he got a recommendation, allowing them to adventure together. Rima listens intently, piecing together another fragment of his past. He walks beside Iane, who cheerfully reminds him that he only became an adventurer thanks to the guild master, whom she considers their benefactor. He observes her strange happiness, then realizes it's understandable, given she nearly died in the other world. He asks her what he was like before. She thinks for a moment before listing his old traits: a complete dungeon nerd, clumsy with a terrible sense of direction, prone to getting depressed quickly when things went wrong, and oddly clueless about random things. His face contorts in disbelief as he asks if that means he hasn't changed at all. When she confirms it, he throws his hands up in exasperation, shouting to ask if she's joking. She isn't. She clarifies that his kindness is what truly hasn't changed. She lists the ways, how he unconsciously matches her pace, how he can be absent-minded but is genuinely caring, and how he always indulges her whims. After a moment, she breaks the serious mood with a lighthearted, "Just kidding." He looks away, his expression turning somber. He apologizes, confessing that he was scared. He admits that walking to school with her has calmed him, making him feel like he's still the same person. Iane observes that his habit of apologizing for everything is another thing that hasn't changed. She turns to him, a hopeful look on her face, and tells him that since he's finally starting his school life for real, she'll be counting on him from this day forward. He smiles back, agreeing that he's looking forward to it as well. Iane laughs, admitting that the exchange feels a little embarrassing. As they approach the school building, he quietly resolves to pay her back someday. When she asks what he said, he deflects, saying he was just wondering what school would be like. She assures him it's fun and that he'll see, to which he replies that he's looking forward to it. The large, modern building of Maikitsu High School stands before them. A new voice speaks, asking to repeat himself. Inside an office, the school's principal, Yuji Kazama, gestures warmly. He formally thanks Rima for returning to Maikitsu High. He gestures casually as Korea, seated before him, recoils in confusion. Korea questions why he was allowed to enroll, protesting that he was unconscious for the start of the term. The principal beams, giving a thumbs up as he explains the school's reasoning. He declares that even without mana or a job, Korea's intellect and knowledge of dungeons led him to create a whole new theory for the support role. For a genius like him, there was no way they wouldn't let him in. In fact, he insists they are the ones grateful he has returned, even with amnesia. Leading him down the hall, The principal continues to list his past accomplishments, being Iane Yukazaki's exclusive support since middle school, the genius who helped her reach S rank, and topping the support division entrance exam. Hearing all this, Kariya reflects that his past self was quite amazing, realizing he has a lot to live up to before he can give this body back. He presents Kariya to his new class, Support 1-to-1. The teacher welcomes him and prompts him to introduce himself to the room of curious students. Standing before his new classmates, he nervously introduces himself as Rima Kariya. He acknowledges his late enrollment in June and asks for their patience and help. Seizing the moment, the teacher announces that the first period will be a Q&A session for Kariya, much to his surprise. His thoughts are interrupted by a familiar voice from across the room. A student with a bandana waves, greeting him as his best buddy and commenting that he looks like a panda that lost its bamboo. Kariya freezes, recognizing the voice instantly. The student is Shiki Amagase, Kariya's best friend since the 5th grade. With a wide grin, he declares that everyone is waiting and encourages the class to get the question started. His encouragement unleashes immediate chaos. A girl with a bow in her hair shoots to her feet, demanding to be first and immediately asking about his relationship with Miss Iane. He is instantly bombarded. Another student brings up the rumors of their genius adventure support duo from middle school, asking if their combo is truly as insane as people say. Flustered, Kariya wonders why no one is asking more technical questions, as yet another classmate shouts, asking if he and Iane are dating. Overwhelmed, he tries to answer, stammering that they are probably just childhood friends. His classmates begin to murmur amongst themselves, wondering if their relationship is purely professional, especially since they were seen walking to school together that very day. He stands awkwardly as a female classmate, undeterred by the previous commotion, asks if he's seen the Black Robe video. Internally, he breathes a sigh of relief, judging by the reactions that his non-committal answer was the correct one. Before he can elaborate, Shiki enthusiastically confirms it for him. Another classmate chimes in, praising the video as pure gold for research, specifically highlighting the summoner's impressive mobility and the perfect timing in supporting their summoned beast. He nervously agrees, adding that the summoned beast was indeed cute and impressive. In truth, he has blocked all mentions of Black Robe on his social media, a fact he keeps to himself as another classmate listens with rapt attention. Seeing that his friend is finally free from the barrage of questions, Shiki leans over with a wide grin, suggesting they grab some food together. Kariya remains slumped over his desk, drained from the social ordeal. As they walk along an elevated school corridor, Shiki senses his friend's quiet demeanor and asks if something's wrong. Kariya silently wonders if his inner turmoil is that obvious. He stops and turns to Shiki, apologizing for the awkwardness before revealing the truth. He has amnesia, and his memory is largely gone. Shiki's expression turns serious as he processes the news, asking for confirmation if he truly remembers nothing at all. Shiki's concern quickly shifts to supportive action. He reintroduces himself as Shiki Amagase, Kariya's best friend since the 5th grade, and reveals his job as an enchanter. He cheerfully encourages Kariya to ask him anything he needs to know, an offer Kariya accepts, thinking he will have to lean on him heavily. Just as Kariya asks him to take it easy, a loud, urgent announcement echoes across the school grounds. An emergency has been declared. Monsters have escaped. Inside a classroom, Iane and her classmates listen intently as the directive is issued. All students ranked C or higher are to proceed to the location to handle the threat, while others are instructed to provide support. The voice over the intercom emphasizes the gravity of the situation, repeating that this is an emergency, not a drill, as the students prepare to mobilize. As the emergency alarm blares, Shiki points out the source of the trouble, the underground dungeon beneath Maikitsu. He tells Kariya, whom he calls Rima, to stay put while he goes to help the teachers. Kariya asks if Shiki can fight. Confidently, Shiki explains that as an enchanter, he can handle himself with buffs and physical boosts. He then notices Kariya's pale expression and asks if he's all right. Kariya apologizes, a flicker of unease crossing his face as he realizes Shiki is also different from what he remembers. He continues, reminding Kariya that he has no weapons and has just recovered, so he must wait there. Shiki instructs him that students of rank C and below are evacuating to the rooftop, and to ask for directions if he gets lost. He makes Kariya promise not to do anything reckless, and Kariya quietly agrees. With a final assurance that he's not weak enough to be defeated by Maikitsu monsters, Shiki vaults over the railing and disappears below. As he leaves, Kariya overhears other students panicking, saying the monsters are everywhere and that people have already been injured. He stands alone for a moment, watching the chaos. Then, with a quiet apology to his friend, Kariya begins an incantation, a glowing magical circle materializing before him as he prepares to summon a weapon. Meanwhile, on a rooftop overlooking the school grounds, Iane initiates her own preparations. She activates mana detection and a terrain scan as a silver-blue robe envelopes her. This garment, woven from Luna's fur, is a masterpiece of stealth, allowing for extended periods of invisibility. Her scan reveals the presence of around 50 hostiles. With her targets located, she leaps from the building, spotting 2 goblin-like creatures below. She lands silently between the 2 monsters, her sudden appearance catching them completely off guard. Before they can react, she offers a curt apology and summons her weapon. Angrist, a dagger sharp enough to slice through orichalcum. She lunges, declaring that it is now her turn to hunt. In an instant, one goblin's head is severed from its body. Crouching over her kill, Iane notes the need to erase the evidence before turning her attention to the remaining monster. Next one, she says coolly. As he surveyed the fallen monsters, a thought struck him as odd. For creatures that had supposedly emerged from a dungeon, they were scattered about in a peculiar way. The realization dawned on him. It was as if they had been placed there on purpose. Looking up, he spotted the faint shimmer of teleportation magic on the school's rooftop. In an instant, he channeled magic into his body, enhancing his speed and strength. He arrived to find a massive ogre menacing a crowd of students. Shiki was already there, but Korea knew that simply slitting the ogre's throat with a dagger wouldn't be enough. Using his own unnatural magic was also a bad idea, as it could hit bystanders and expose Luna and Soul's identities. He needed the perfect tool for this situation. He realized there was one option. Extending his hand, he initiated a summoning spell. A magic circle flared to life, and from it emerged a woman with long, dark hair. He called out her name, Quirce, entrusting the task to her. Meanwhile, Shiki unleashed a powerful attack, his blade glowing as he struck the ogre with a technique he called Hala Hala Xanthos. His blow, however, proved ineffective against the creature's tough hide. As Shiki reeled back, exclaiming at its durability, Quirce floated past Korea, announcing that her work was done. The students she had protected turned to thank her for saving them. Shiki, bewildered, wondered if they had won. Before him, the ogre collapsed, its head split cleanly in two. Horace stood beside him, calmly instructing him to just blend in naturally with the crowd. He looked down at his trembling hand, recognizing the power of the Miketsu students, but also feeling the sudden onset of mana deficiency. As the strain hit him, Horace began to fade, telling him she would return later. The effort of the summoning was too much. Back in his hospital room, Korea's consciousness faded, and he passed out in his bed. He awakens in his hospital bed to find Horace standing over him. She confirms she's there and asks if he's okay. Performing a quick body scan, he detects a fever but quickly identifies the true cause as a mana drain. He calls out to her, checking that no other humans are present. It is known that Horace and her kind, the Hydros, are a special race known as Archihydra. He deduces that she must have taken care of him, which she affirms. He explains that his condition is merely a fever common in children when their magic circuits first open, a sensation he now recalls from his time in the other world. She elaborates, stating that his soul has finally synchronized with his body, which should make using magic easier from now on. He finds this puzzling, questioning how he was able to use magic immediately upon his return, but she simply tells him he understands. A silence falls between them. Horace moves to sit on the edge of his bed, her expression somber. Noticing the change, he calls out to her. He asks if he can hold her hand, reassuring her that she won't die again. Her composure breaks, and she pleads with him to promise he'll hold her hand again, asking to feel his warmth. Taking her hand in his, he agrees, making the promise. The touch triggers a memory of the moment he died in his original world. In that moment, Horace recalls a time when she had considered destroying the world. Her thoughts drift to a memory of them together. It was Rima who gave her everything, the joy of conversation, the warmth of another's touch, accepting her when all she knew was how to kill. She resolves to use her entire soul, even the poisonous power she once despised, to protect him. Back in the present, Korea gets out of bed, telling Horace to remain hidden until he returns home. Just then, Shiki and Iane arrive at his door, Shiki calling out in surprise. As he stands, Korea silently vows to himself that he will never lose again. Shiki rushes to his side, asking if he was worried about him, while Iane looks on, flustered. Korea brushes off the concern, insisting he's fine. Seeing this, Iane reflects on Rima's kindness and decides that she will be the one to accept and carry everything for his sake. As he walked with Shiki, a troubled expression crossed his face. Shiki noticed immediately, asking what was wrong, but Korea brushed it off as nothing. Internally, however, a conflict raged. He saw himself as a worthless, hopeless piece of trash, yet he harbored a desperate wish to become strong enough to bear all the impurities of the one he loves. That person, Horace, was consumed by her own dark resolve. With a chilling glint in her eyes, she made a silent, deadly vow to kill anyone who stood in her way, until the very end. At a family restaurant, a group of students are gathered in a booth. One of the girls turns to her friend, asking if she is paying attention to the conversation. Her friend, Shiki Amigase, is engrossed in his phone, explaining that he's reading an adventurer's and streamer's thread. Another girl remarks on his obsession with the topic, but he defends it as solid, compiled information. She sighs, pointing out that their party is stuck in a beginner dungeon, unable to level up. A third student chimes in, lamenting that it's always the same S-rank adventurers in the spotlight, and begins listing off famous names like Kaiser Dragonia, Tatsugan, and Thunder Ogre Slayer. The discussion is suddenly cut short when the first girl gasps, staring at her phone in disbelief. She announces that Miketsu Academy is doing a first-year dungeon conquest stream soon, and it even includes a tutor section. Her excitement builds as she reveals the participants. Kaiser Dragonia, with a special Dragon Rider job, the incredibly strong swordswoman Lady Kagura, and even Miketsu's own Ice Princess, Iane, whose combat power is rumored to be monstrous. Shiki, however, seems unimpressed, telling them to focus on their own part. Elsewhere, in a quiet room, Korea sits at his desk, recalling that he had only skimmed a particular book before. He now reads it more carefully, finding its contents quite impressive. The book is filled with memories of dungeon adventures with a childhood best friend. He reasons that since this diary belongs to his other self from another world, the unfamiliarity of the memories makes perfect sense. He decides that the simplest approach is to treat it as his own diary to avoid any difficult questions. His thoughts then turn to finding a weapon, and he resolves to summon assistance. A swirling vortex of dark energy promptly materializes on his floor. From a summoning circle, Quirce appears. Korea greets her by name and asks for her help in locating something related to magic. She moves with astonishing speed, instantly finding a small box. Korea marvels at her reliability, acknowledging that her mana detection skills are far superior to his own. He picks up the item, noting its weight, and identifies it as some kind of concealment box before calling out to Rima that he's found. He found the answer within the diary. A single command written on the page, crackling with latent energy, dispel. That was it. He continued reading, absorbing his other self's frustrations. Rima had lamented his lack of mana, finding the constant studying to be hell. He recalled Rima's boast to his friends that he would master everything needed to be the best support, knowledge and stamina, in just 2 days. It was a lie he truly regretted, and Korea recognized that same tendency to show off within himself. He learned that even after being told he possessed no mana, the Rima of this world kept pushing forward. He stumbled and fell, over and over, but refused to leave his childhood friends behind, determined to give both their talents a future. The diary was a testament to that relentless effort. He explained the diary's contents to Quirce. The 5th notebook detailed dungeon features, the 6th covered monsters, and the 7th outlined efficient support methods. The 8th and final notebook was written during his 2nd year of middle school. Korea admitted that the growing guilt he felt for stealing Rima's efforts was what compelled him to keep reading, to truly understand the person whose life he now inhabited. The final pages conveyed a deep, visceral pain. Rima felt he wasn't enough to help Iane reach S rank, that he was only holding her back. He felt his current self was insufficient. The answer, he wrote, was simple. He just had to try harder so he could stand beside her. This desperate resolve filled the last page. This determination led to a breakthrough. Rima wrote that their party, Shiki, Iane, and himself, had finally been recognized to take the S-rank exam, becoming the youngest ever to do so. He believed that once it was over, all his struggles would be worth it. Closing the diary, he turned to Quirce with newfound purpose. He stated firmly that no matter what, he was going back to his original world. As he addressed her, she quietly corrected him, her gaze steady. Rima, his expression hardened. He couldn't let his true identity be revealed. It would trample all of Rima's hard work. He resolved then and there to delve into the mysteries of the dungeons. There had to be a way to give this body back to Rima, and he would find it. He had to, because this person was him. He reflected on the kind of person Rima was, a hero who always acted for the sake of others, who could sacrifice himself for everyone. This was unlike himself, who only knew how to take and kill. Looking at Quirce, Korea made a silent, unbreakable vow. He would get all back without fail. His mind was made up. He still had time. He had to push himself, even if just a little. It was time to enter a dungeon. He clenches his fist, his resolve hardening. In this world, he has 2 clear duties: to protect all of his summons and to return this body to Rima. His determination leads him and his companion to their destination, the Black Iron Dungeon, a rank C, cave-type labyrinth. Having made it this far is considered a good start. Inside, Quirce questions why he has come to what is likely the deepest section. Korea explains that he intends to test his current strength and asks her to watch his back. She agrees, but cautions him not to overdo it. He reassures her, promising to ask for help if things get bad. He recalls information from Rima's notebook. Cave-type dungeons are filled with monsters, and the types of creatures change depending on the depth of the floor. He also remembers another key feature. These dungeons drop mana-charged magic stones. These stones are the very backbone of this world's technology, powering everything from lights to vehicles. Just as he finishes his thought, a hulking gorilla-like beast emerges from passage ahead. In response, he summons a simple, unnamed straight sword. The creature is a silverback. Korea analyzes its main features based on Rima's knowledge. Its long arms are its greatest weapon, specialized for destruction, but its build limits it to heavy, powerful swings. As the beast brings its massive fist down, he declares that it's time to begin. Putting this knowledge into practice, he swiftly dodges the telegraphed attack, slipping inside the creature's guard where it is most vulnerable. He recalls the final piece of crucial information. The weak spot is the left side of its chest, where the magic stone is located. Though uncertain how well Rima's techniques will translate to this world, he has no choice but to rely on them as he thrusts his blade forward. His sword strikes true, shattering the magic stone in an explosive impact. The silverback roars in agony, its chest blown open. Korea stands firm, sensing that his powers are beginning to grow. A few hours later, surrounded by the remains of defeated monsters, Korea decides it is time to head back. He suddenly stopped, sensing an imminent approach. He informed Rima that he could hear 3 sets of light footsteps and one heavy one. While he recognized some of the other monster types from his knowledge, he noted that a minotaur was a particularly rare beast. Quirce simply acknowledged his assessment. The source of the light, footsteps burst into view. A trio of adventurers fleeing in terror. They scrambled through the cavern pass, one crying out in disbelief at another's apparent intention to fight alone. Behind them, the heavy tread revealed its owner, a hulking minotaur, roaring as it closed the distance. From his vantage point, Quirce recognized that this creature was clearly stronger than the one he had just defeated, as one of the fleeing adventurers desperately yelled for them to run away. The lead adventurer, a swordsman, considered his options while running. He knew that if he were alone, escape would be simple. However, with his companions present, he reasoned that fighting and causing a scene would be a poor strategic choice. His gaze then fell upon Quirce and Quirce. He shouted for them to hurry over, much to the confusion of his companions. Watching the scene unfold, Quirce came to a quiet resolution. He could not simply abandon these people to their fate. The swordsman, however, turned to face the threat, telling his party to leave it to him as he summoned a weapon into his hand. As the other two adventurers ran past Quirce and Quirce, it was noted that there was no streaming device recording the event. But before the adventurer could act, Quirce stepped forward, challenging the beast to come at him. In his hands, a formidable weapon materialized, the Quirce death scythe. It was a gift from his companion, an assassination tool imbued with a soul-corroding poison designed for an instant kill. Despite Quirce's intervention, the swordsman lunged forward, striking the minotaur's arm. His blade shattered against the creature's tough hide, the attack having no effect. In that same instant, Quirce appeared beside the beast's head, his scythe already in position. He calmly declared the fight to be over. The massive creature crumpled, its heavy body crashing to the cavern floor, lifeless. The battle was won. He swung the massive scythe in a final, devastating arc, the dark energy of the blade carving through the air. The Minotaur's colossal body crashed to the ground, lifeless. Without a backward glance, he began to walk away from the fallen beast. The party of adventurers watched in stunned silence before erupting in a mix of awe and gratitude. The magic user, overcome with excitement, declared it was insane and asked for an autograph, only to be immediately scolded by the archer for his rudeness. He calmly asked if everyone was all right. The swordsman, studying his black robe, deduced from the magic he used that he must be a summoner and asked how he could become that strong. Flustered by the attention, Quirce realized this was a bad situation and impulsively summoned a small, ghost-like cat. His attention was then drawn to his wolf familiar, who appeared beside him. The two shared a silent, intense look, a spark of understanding passing between them. Following that silent exchange, he activated a stealth ability and vanished completely, leaving the adventurers staring at the empty space where he once stood. The magic user was left to lament his missed autograph. He reappeared not in the dungeon, but in the entryway of a familiar home. His mother, seeing him by the door, called out his name, Rima, and asked if he had forgotten anything. He smiled, assuring her that it was the third time she had asked. She insisted that he worried her, listing off items he might need: his lunch, handkerchief, phone, and even snacks to share with his friends Ayane and Shiki. He confirmed he had everything, dismissing the snacks as unimportant. His mother's expression softened with concern, reminding him that it was his first dungeon in a long time and that she was worried he would get hurt again. A bead of sweat ran down his face as he realized he could never tell her he had just returned from hunting monsters. To calm her fears, he explained that there would be an S-rank adventurer in his group and that it was just an extracurricular class, so it wouldn't be that tough. Seemingly reassured, she agreed as he turned to leave. He was about to leave when his mother called out, asking him to wait a moment. She apologized for the delay, explaining she had been wondering when to give him something. A few minutes later, he stood waiting. She presented him with a long case. Opening it revealed two ornate firearms nestled in the lining, one black, one white. She told him to carry them with him as a protective charm, leaving him to stare in disbelief at what they were. He realized that his mother and father had been keeping his exclusive, custom-made gear safe. He recalled that the notebook he'd found even contained combat tactics for these very weapons. As he held the black firearm, it seemed to emit a faint, powerful light. His hand trembled slightly. He knew that, thanks to the notebook, he remembered how to use them. But a deep uncertainty settled in his gut. He wasn't sure if he truly had the right to wield them anymore. Despite his internal conflict, his mother offered a warm, reassuring smile from the doorway. She encouraged him to do his best and pleaded with him not to get hurt again. He turned back, his expression shifting to one of confidence. He promised her he wouldn't do anything reckless and would return home safe and sound. With that, he arrived at the designated location, a modern building that served as the entrance to the rank C dungeon known as the Abandoned Beast Nest. As he approached, a voice called out his name. It was his classmate, Asahi Yujiri. Holding a mage's staff, she greeted him with a bright smile, saying she was counting on him for the day's expedition. Quirce, slightly taken aback, agreed. Meanwhile, not far away, Ayane stood alone, her spirit sinking as a cloud of small, shadowy creatures gathered at her feet. She wondered why she wasn't with Rima. Her distress did not go unnoticed. Lady Kagura and Kaiser Dragonia observed her, speculating that something serious must have happened. Her brooding was interrupted by Kaiser Dragonia's voice asking Lady Kagura about a particular nickname. the shadow dragon stealing his childhood friend's girl. The dishonorable title shocked Lady Kagura, but for Ayane, the words acted as a catalyst, her gaze sharpening with cold fury. She had been watching from a distance when Asahi Yujiri suddenly called out to her. Asahi, standing beside a flustered Korea, explained that she thought it best to introduce the two of them properly. Korea, caught off guard, questioned Ayane about the sudden call, but she simply stared back with a blank expression. He was still trying to process the situation when Asahi introduced him to a woman in samurai-style attire. Asahi explained that Rima Korea would be working with them as support, and that it would be a pleasure to have him, however briefly. The woman studied him, murmuring his name, while Korea, completely lost, could only utter a confused, archaic phrase. The introductions continued as another figure, Kaiser Dragonia, announced his assignment to their group alongside the sword woman, who revealed her streaming name is Kagura. Korea, looking a bit nervous, realized he was now partnered with a childhood friend and two S-rank adventurers. This moment marked the beginning of his long and complicated relationship with these extraordinary individuals. Elsewhere, another group was forming. Shiki Amagase hurried to join Lady Kagura and Quirce, waving an apology. He explained that he had been held up talking with a teacher. He seemed a bit off, prompting Quirce to ask if he was feeling bus sick. Shiki mumbled non-committally, and Quirce suggested they monitor his condition. Lady Kagura, however, was all business, stating that their mission was to defeat the boss on the lowest floor. With a confident smile, she declared she was feeling great and ready to get moving. Meanwhile, Ayane's mood had only soured. She scowled, internally blaming her foul temper on a Rima deficiency and contemplating if she should switch places with Shiki just to get away.